You have no idea how many times I had to re-record some bits of this script because someone upstairs was moving things around, or my dad was chasing my little sister and the dog was barking. There's so much noise going on. This is why I don't record when my family is home. Even now, oh my fucking god. Hello metal hatchlings, and welcome back to my series of redesign videos where I take my old characters from WSS and redesign them for a new story. But if you're new here, then welcome, and in case you didn't know already, WSS is my discontinued webcomic I had on Webtoon. Also, I got a new microphone, so better audio this time, finally. And I have an entirely new look, which is mostly why this video took so long to finish, on top of being in college. So today I'm going to be going over Elenor Warren, or Pendragon, but as of currently she is now known as Elenor Sterling. And just like Lucas, I hate her too! The best way I can describe WSS Elenor in the most simplest of terms is that she was your classic blonde white girl, and oh Fabi, the cruelest thing on earth because she ended up feeling like one of those fake blonde white girls despite my attempts to avoid such a fate for Elenor. Not to mention she suspiciously looked like Mikasa from Attack on Titan, only blonde, and less of a badass. Anyways, let's backtrack to the beginning, shall we? Elenor, a human, was the third of the original 4 who were created for the WSS story, turning a duo into a trio. My intention was to have her be the smart one, the bookworm, and someone who was naive. But in her naivety, she was someone who looked to see the best in others, and she was to be Callan's sole love interest. But as I began to write her character, her involvement, and purpose in WSS, the more things began to fall apart. In her defense, WSS Elenor did become the caring kind of character, looking out for others and always kept an open mind as I wrote WSS, but everything else had begun to feel so fake. I don't know how it all went wrong, but it got to the point where I kinda gave up on her. I mean, she hadn't even made her official appearance in the story, so... Anyways, before I rant and go off topic as much as I want to, let's move on. Oh, and before I forget, in the midst of my angst-loving obsession at the ripe age of 13, the only trauma, if it can even be called that Elenor got was an MIA father due to world building of all things, and she wasn't even bothered by it. Essentially, her bio dad was supposed to be an angel. Like, a literal angel. Biblically accurate if you want it to be. Reason being is because of lore and world building. Angels and demons existed in WSS, but only can do so if mortals believe in them, and depending on the mortals' beliefs, these supernatural beings take on the forms of said beliefs, like the gods of Norse mythology, or the Greek pantheon, or even actual angels and devils. And it was strictly forbidden to meddle in mortal affairs, with the exception of demons being summoned by witches or warlocks and put under contract. I could go on about the lore of WSS, but it goes deep, so maybe another time. So with that for context, Elenor was young at the time of her angel daddy disappearing, and being a child with no recollection of her dad, it's essentially the equivalent of her dad never having existed in Eleanor's mind. The only things that assured her of her dad's existence was Eleanor's red scarf and a pet dove, as the day her dad had disappeared, leaving Eleanor's mom sobbing by the door, red scarf in hand, there was a dove sitting amongst scattered white feathers too big for the dove itself. And with Eleanor's tragic backstory out of the way, let's talk about her old design. One of the major things about Eleanor's design that I had grown to dislike about her the most was her color palette specifically, mainly because she was yellow for some reason. I mean, keeping true to the white blonde girl trope, I guess. I don't know myself what was going through my head for 5 years, so don't ask. It got slightly better down the road as I had changed her slightly to counteract the yellow, but I still hated her for the fact that she was yellow. And like I said earlier, she looked like a blonde Mikasa, red scarf and all, which I had noticed very early on but just didn't do anything about it. My intention for Elenor was, although being a rich blonde girl due to living with her stepdad who conveniently owned the news company, I specifically designed Elenor not to show off how rich she was. She was modest and looked as though she came from a regular middle-class family. And in her first design she had overalls and looked not if even poorer. It was essentially Eleanor's goal to deny the wealth she had, basically. I really tried not to make her the classic white girl, guys. I really tried. But with all that out of the way, let's go on to Eleanor's new and improved design. So first things first, I kept Eleanor's scarf. just not as red as before. I really can't imagine her without it, or at least for it to not be a part of her main design. Next, she got a complete makeover. New look, new color palette. She hasn't changed so much that I can't recognize her as Elenor, but she's definitely rocking her new look. And I really shouldn't say new look entirely because I actually referenced her old design to help me with this new one. In Eleanor's first design 5 years ago when I first made her, her hair was actually in a braid, a very long and poorly drawn one. I ended up hating the braid and basically chopped it off, which resulted in Eleanor's short hair for WSS. But then I started liking the idea of Elenor having a braid again, so at some point in WSS, she was supposed to have her hair grown out and put in a braid due to magical means. But now she has a braid and she's never looked better. At this point, or when I started redesigning my characters, starting with Callan, I was deep diving into Pinterest, and if I'm being honest, it was a little difficult trying to find fantasy-like clothes that fit Elenor. She wasn't as dainty or naive as she was before, but she definitely did not rise to the level of being a Mikasa badass. So trying to find clothes that were designed for convenience but took the middle ground between female warrior and the very female-leaning dressy look was a little frustrating, but I found a look, or a combination of a bunch of ideas, and Elenor looks great. Like I said, Elenor isn't as dainty as she was in WSS, and it's sad to say that I sort of intended for Elenor to be the designated damsel in distress, and that just made me hate her even more. So thank God she's not a pathetic woman who needs someone to come and save her. This time, she's actually a lot more intelligent now as opposed to just being book smart. However, she is a lot more cautious and curious as a character, being a human in the new story who, like Lucas, is determined to lend a hand to the quote-unquote monsters in this whole humans versus monsters idea I have going, but she is a lot less experienced in that field, so Elenor must tread carefully. She is working in tandem with Lucas and Noah and is essentially their newbie. Going back to that curiosity aspect, I wanted Elenor to be curious by nature, which is why I gave her a little journal and quill to record her findings or just write about whatever. Perhaps having lived in a sheltered home with prejudice and discriminating views, Elenor decided she had enough and wanted to know the world outside of the discrimination and ran away? Just an idea. And with that, there really isn't much else to talk about Elenor, as again, I sort of gave up on her during my motivation decline for WSS. Not much was revealed about her, nor did she get much of a chance in the spotlight. She does appear in old art here and there, but a lot of WSS Elenor is now hidden and forever stored in the dark corners of my Google Drive or my Instagram archive. The last time she really ever showed up was in concept art I did and side stories I wrote in my free time of the foreseeable future of WSS, where she and Callan were married because, like I said, Callan and Elenor were intended to get together, and to be honest, they make a very cute couple. Will they get together in the new story? Highly likely, but I could always change my mind. Did I mention they were supposed to have triplets for kids in that foreseeable future of WSS? Yeah, they were supposed to have triplets. Why triplets? I don't know, I honestly couldn't tell you. Not that the triplets will ever be shown, so it doesn't really matter. And that concludes this redesign video for Elenor. Just like Callan and Lucas, I had a lot of fun redesigning her. And let me be clear, I loved redesigning all of the main characters. One of the things that I really like about Elenor now is that her colors fit her a lot better and she's not going to be the damsel in distress. She is a capable young lady who has a desire to learn. Her redesign was posted alongside the rest of the main cast for this new story a while ago, so go follow my Instagram and Twitter to see those redesigns and to keep up with any content. And don't forget to comment about what you think about Eleanor's new design. And before I announce who will be getting the redesign next, it's better I say this quickly. There were 4 original OCs that made up WSS in its early days: Callan, Lucas, Elenor, and Flake. Flake unfortunately won't be getting a redesign because she no longer has any involvement. She was more or less a filler character that, like Lucas's backstory in WSS, held no real value. Another character who is also no longer part of the main cast is someone named Noelle, Noah's adopted little sister. Noelle had some issues attached to her both story-wise and for my own personal reasons, so rest in peace, Flake and Noelle. You will be missed. Maybe. Not Noelle, she was annoying. And to conclude this video, for what's left of the redesign videos of the WSS characters, I'll be pairing characters up for both lore and convenience sake. In the next redesign video, I'll be going over both Tala Adewolf and Leon Mordred. Specifically for the lore reason, as Tala and Leon were my designated couple in WSS. And with that, don't forget to like and subscribe if you so desire to. Thank you all for keeping me company, make sure you take care of yourselves, and until next time, little hatchlings, bye!